Uh, yeah, so we're Mighty House Construction. We've been around for, oh my gosh, like almost 12, 15 years, somewhere in there. We focus in on green and sustainable remodeling, and so trying to make a healthier quality life in your home. And we like to, when we can, use a lot of salvage because it's fun and interesting to throw that on in there. So let's see here. Does anybody have any questions to get going, I guess?
I did type in the chat. You're welcome to leave your questions in the chat as well if you didn't want to use your microphone. Well, I guess we can answer the questions that were asked in the email, Doug.
Sure.
So there was one, somebody wanted to buy a front door at second use and it doesn't have a jamb. Let me go quick over to my email. Is it difficult to install the door with an existing jamb?
You can put in a new door or an old door into your existing jamb. Just a few things you want to look at is if the swing is hopefully the same. So that meaning like the hinges are on the same side as what you currently have and the action would work the same. It makes life a little bit easier. But the one thing that will probably happen is the hinges, whatever current dado you have in your jamb on your home is probably going to be different than the jamb that's in the on the door that you buy. And so you can easily just either cut out, depending upon which one you want to cut out, like remortise on the door or remortise on the jamb, and you can make those fit in there. And then usually the handle or the lock set is not going to connect. Usually those will probably end up being different also. And that one I would recommend keeping the hole on the door drilled in the same space, and then just readjusting the strike plate on your jamb so that you can it'll hit the same spot, because that's usually a smaller patch to repair if it's in a different spot compared to re-drilling the hole in the door, which it's usually harder to get that to fill in and make look good and make it look right.
Cool. And then the other question regarding doors I had, looking for an outswing door, and I wonder if it's possible to make an exterior in-swing door with hinge cuts but no jambs become an outswing door. Could I fill in the in-swing cuts and cut opposite new ones on the style?
Yes, you can change the swing of doors. Once again, it's just taking the you're probably not going to, it's hard to fill in on the doors where the when you reverse the jambs, because the hinges, instead of facing one direction out the door, they're going to be the other side, so that you just have that little 1/4 inch strip at the back of the hinge. You can leave that piece off, or you can attempt to fill it in with a little piece of wood if you're going to paint the doors. The other thing to think about is there's usually the door is beveled a certain way. So like as the door closes, the part that like comes closest and hits the jamb the soonest on the handle side is usually, it has a slight bevel. So that side is just, that door is just a little bit shorter on that side than the other. And that's just to allow it to shut and close and operate without hitting the existing jamb. So you'll probably have to change the bevel on the existing door to get that to fit. But you can make any door fit in any spot. It's just there's going to be some manipulation of the doors, changing the bevel on it or changing the locations of the hinges. And if it's a door that you're going to paint, you can probably put some wood pieces and fill in the other spots, and then sand it and fill it and make it look good, and repaint it, and those will go away. But if it's a stained door, it's a lot harder to put a piece of wood in and sand it out to make it look like it was always there. unless you intentionally do something unique and just make it a different piece of wood to make it stand out and make it look like some sort of like kind of artist type thing that you're doing to the door.
Cool. Welcome, Kim. We have one participant who's a phone number. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Did any of you have questions? You want to throw it, Doug?
I was just gonna listen for a while. I've been to second use. We have a house that's new to us. We've done a couple things, and I guess I just more want to hear what other people are doing and things we haven't thought of that we could do. I maybe like one small question. I don't know.
I mean, any question, it's fine. Like how to, and if you want to use some salvage in it and how to make it fit. And
So I have discovered free cycle is my new obsession. And I got these doors from this guy down in Renton for free. And they, oh my God, my cat's outside. That's not supposed to be happening. And here, can somebody else talk for a second?
Yeah.
Yes. Go get the pet. All right. Well, in the short term, then, does anyone else have some questions that they want to get answered? All right.
I had a question, Doug.
Yes.
I have a sconce that I want to install on. I've never installed a light myself.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to turn the panel off or just make sure the light switches off? Any suggestions for how to install a light?
Yeah, you just want to make sure that for safety that you don't have any power to the switch point. So at the switch, if you turn the switch off, then the leg that goes to the light, hopefully it's wired so that power goes to the switch, and then from the switch, a wire goes to where the light is. Sometimes they make it so that power goes to the light location, and then a wire goes back to the switch location. So if you turn the switch off, just make sure there's no power at where the sconce is going to be to help prevent you from getting shocked. If it is still live, then maybe try to just take one of the breakers find out what breaker it's on and turn that off just to be safe.
Yeah.
And then it should be hopefully just a matter of unscrewing the existing sconce or whatever is there and just being able to reattach the new one.
The new old one.
The new old one, yes. And just the hard part is like a lot of times it's missing little mounting brackets or things like that for the light. So it's just double check that all the little parts are there before you really jump into it. Because the hard part is if it's missing a certain mounting bracket, that there's usually a bracket that bolts to the box that's on the wall, and then you mount your light to that bracket. And sometimes some lights don't have the bracket.
Yeah, so I had a mounting bracket, so I took the existing sconce off the bracket, and the current bracket is like at an angle like this.
Yes.
And my new one needs to, here, I can show you the light because it's right here. It's my beautiful Art Deco light. And so the mounting bracket here is, I don't know, a little bit of an angle, but kind of more straight, whereas the current one is very much 45 degrees.
So you can get, you might have to just get a different mounting bracket, depending upon like how, once you look at the box or the junction box that's on the wall, and you can sometimes they have just a completely round mounting bracket, so it has a lot of different options of how to install it. And just a lot of times I'll just go and pick one of those up, and you can get those at most any hardware store would have that kind of a thing.
Okay. I'm pretty sure the Second Use Light Shop will have one for me.
They might. Considering I'm blanking her name, she rebuilds a lot of lights there. So
yeah, Anne.
And
the light
yes.
shop. Yeah, so this was one that she had redone, and I saw her coming down from the light shop with it, and I was like, "What's that?" Wait, it's only $75 and you worked on it? I'm gonna need that right now.
Yeah, so she'll probably have a different mounting bracket to make it work for what you need.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. Katie said, I'm just here to listen and learn. I have zero experience with any of this. I love the glass doorknobs from second use and wasn't sure how to install it. So installing old glass doorknobs.
The glass doorknobs they're usually, you need the old mounting system. And the hard part is, well, it's just the type of door you have. And so if you have an old door that has the old mortised out type of latch on it, you can work with that put that whole piece in. But if you have a newer door that has like a standard modern drilled door, you need to get, they make a hardware set pieces that go in the door to allow you to put on the glass handles too. But so you have to buy like this whole kit of things, and they sell those at most hardware stores. Another place that you can ask is, I know is Builders Hardware. They have a lot of parts for doors, old doors up there that you can check with. But you have to check with what kind of door you have will depend upon what you're going to need for the, the guts of the handle to the operation points of it, other than just the glass knobs. So the glass knobs are gorgeous and decorative, and I love those, but they don't work on every door because every one of them mounts just a little bit differently. Some of them you actually screw in on like a solid piece of, has like just a square piece of metal, but it's threaded. So you actually wind it on, and others just slide on over, and then they usually have like a little lock screw on it that you turn to help lock the handle in place.
Okay,
so
thank you.
It's a little bit of research to see how all the different parts work.
Okay, I think mine is the one that like twists. It's got and forgive me for explaining this poorly, but it's there's one on each end obviously, and then there's just a bar in the middle. There's not a whole lot going on. And then I have another one that looks much more complicated, but probably might be the easier one to install because there's more going on. I wish I can't, they're in my storage right now, but yeah, of course it's complicated. I was like, this seems easy. And then, yeah, figured out that's not the case.
And then it depends upon what type of door you're installing them in. Like if it's an old door, it's already mortised out for the, how the catch works and everything. And you can usually just slide any old handle set through it. You'll need to get some new escutcheon covers to cover the hole a little more. They also help hold the handle in place so that they don't sit there and go up and down, but they'll stay straight through the door.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, I'm back. Both my cats were saved. My 10-year-old let them out and they were escaping the yard. So I'm going to go on the door theme. You made me think about doors. Couple of questions. You said the word is escutcheon. Is that the right thing?
Yes.
If you like the look of those, could you just get one and stick it on your door and put handles over it? Or is it a whole like kit transition? We have like, early 80s hollow core, not great doors.
It's for usually the more modern door, you're getting a whole handle system. So you're not buying just the escutcheon separately. Some hardware sets mean you can buy individual little parts. But most of the newer ones, it's all kind of one kit that goes together. So you're getting a whole new handle and everything to replace on the newer doors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just choosing if you want, do I want a lever handle? And then it comes with various styles of escutcheons, and
the older ones from second use. I've seen some older ones that I like, and I don't know if that's even possible to put on like an old cheap door, like an 80s door, or if that's just kind of ridiculous.
They're not going to work on a modern door. You need, they're designed to go on an old door where strike where the handle side is like a big mortise that goes in. So it's a big metal piece that's very long, and it slides in the end of the door. And there's usually just a single little hole that goes through the door. And then they have like very decorative escutcheons that go with it.
Okay.
But the newer doors, they're usually just, it's like a 2 1/4 inch hole that's drilled through the door, and then a single little, about a 7/8 hole that goes through the side end of the door into it, and that's where those parts go. So the newer escutcheon pieces that go on are not going to cover the other hole, and they just don't work with the modern assembly.
Okay. The other thing I was going to ask, I got this old door off Recycle, and we're thinking about trying to make it into like a hanging barn door. And it's nice wood with like all these glass cutouts, but because it's for a hall closet, we don't want the see-through glass. We were thinking of trying to put like metal, like sheets of metal on there, whether it's brass or something that's kind of patinaed. Is there a source for that sort of like thin sheet metal? I have no idea where you go buy such a thing.
Second use might actually have some little thin pieces of metal. You never know what they're going to have there.
Okay.
The other thing that you could do, and which I actually did on my garage door, which is we have a garage door with windows in it, but I didn't want people from the alley to just be able to look in the garage. And so I got a piece of like plexiglass that's opaque that you can't see through, and just screwed it to the inside of the garage portion of the door, so you can't see through it, but you still get the nice glass look from the outside. And you can do that if it's a barn door. You might be able to find something decorative to put on that, on one side of it, on kind of the inside area, so that it blocks the light and it's not coming through. Another thing you might be able to get is they sell like these, it's like a sticker that sticks on the glass with various textures and patterns, and some of them are really opaque, so you can't see through it. But they simply just clean the glass really well, and then stick it and glue on the little pieces. And those are sold at a lot of hardware stores for things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally we would like a metal door, but we're not going to buy $1,000 closet doors.
Yeah.
So how to make metal on the door is the goal, but.
And for most, if you're just getting just a single big plate piece of metal, there's a lot of sheet metal places around town. One place I get is a lot of it's Pacific sheet metal up there on Aurora, like 97th and Aurora.
Okay.
And if you just want a piece of sheet metal of some color, design, stainless, copper, you just tell them how big of a piece you want, and they can cut you one.
Okay. I think the last thing is we tore out all the closet doors that were falling down, the bifold doors in the whole house, like the bedrooms, and we just don't know what to replace them with. And I'm just wondering if there's something kind of fun from salvage things that maybe we haven't seen or haven't thought of that can work as closet doors. We just don't know what to do. We don't have a plan, so they're kind of just open right now.
It all depends upon kind of the operation of how much access you want to the closet right now. Like you could get some bypass doors, so it's just 2 doors that are up there and one kind of slides behind the other, but it only gives you half of a closet, at any one time. The bifolds allowed you to kind of get a bigger opening to the closet, and you can get some more bifold doors if you wanted to do that. You can just make it kind of a French door, just get 2 doors, so that it's just 2 doors that will open individually. Just kind of choosing for what kind of door to do that with, or it depends on where that is, or how you want access. It's how you want access to it. So there's a million options. Some people just put up curtains. Some people have put up made it into a barn door, so if there's enough wall so that the 2 doors can just slide open. If there's enough wall on either side, you can just do a barn door setup over in front of it. So that's a few. You might be even able to search kind of just on the internet of, unique door solutions. And I'm sure there's been some really creative things that people have done.
Thank
And
you.
then when you see the really creative things, then you can like, oh, I see something like that. And then you can go to second use and they might have those parts there.
Would you suggest a pocket door at all, Doug?
A pocket door, I mean, that's a lot of reframing to make the pocket door aspects work. But if you have the space to make it a pocket door, you could. It's just you have to open up the whole wall to get the track system to fit inside the wall.
Excellent. We have a new participant, Dinah. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We have a lot of people here who just kind of were here to listen. Did you have a specific question in mind?
No, I also came to listen.
Got a bunch of listeners here.
Well, maybe I do have a question.
Excellent.
We are constructing a unit, and my daughter wants to do a wood treatment on a vaulted ceiling. And maybe Doug could suggest some sources for salvaged, interesting looking wood that could be somehow secured to the ceiling. Idea what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so you just like any sort of unique wood, you just want to attach it to the ceiling to get kind of that wood ceiling look. Is that right?
Right.
There's, I mean, well, one, even at second use is they have an area back there of, it's kind of like beadboard, but it's been kind of like miscuts. And so there's unique shapes or just the details to it. They have extra knots. And we actually did that on one ceiling where we just put the whole ceiling with this kind of like B grade wood that they couldn't sell as brand new stuff that was somebody wanted to stain, but then you can restain that. And sometimes like even at second use, they'll get in big chunks of old wood and just, you can attach that to the ceiling. Otherwise, there are a lot of stores or not stores, but like places online that I've seen where they have various types of what they call, I guess, barn wood and thin pieces of veneer wood that you can attach to the ceiling of various stains and finishes. It's just kind of seeking those out, but there's.
And what would I search for?
Just wood kind of veneers or ceiling,
Okay.
or not ceiling, but wood veneers of some sort, or not veneers, but wood. I'm blanking the word. Oh my gosh, the word escaped me. Kind of like a wainscoting type thing, but something where you're just trying to create that wood wall. If you just look up wood wall,
Okay.
There's a million choices out there. And like I said, sometimes second use has a lot of fun stuff to get there. And depending upon how you're wanting it to look, you can potentially cobble a few different styles together to create a design.
Oh, all right.
How thin, like, let's say you're working with fur, how thin would you want it to be?
It can be any thickness. The key is like if it's too thin and you're putting it on the ceiling, it's harder to secure it. So then you'd actually kind of nail it and glue it to the ceiling to help get it up there. So if it's something like it's only a 1/4 inch thick, it's hard to nail that and keep it really secure to your ceiling. It's going to want to naturally kind of fall down. So you're actually going to glue it, and you can throw some nails with it to help hold it to the ceiling so that it doesn't sag or some boards fall out over time, because nails that are really small don't really hold well into sheetrock when they're hanging from the ceiling. They work fine on the wall pretty much, but not on the ceiling. But
So
you can get it can be, thick wood too. It could be 1.5 inches thick if you wanted to make it that thick. It's just it's just a little heavier, and you're going to use bigger nails or screws or something to ensure that it stays up on the ceiling And once again, even if it's that size, it's probably best to glue it and nail it to keep it supported well.
So I know the one thing that we have in stock, which there's a lot of it, is the shiplap, the blue fir shiplap, which was milled out of old pilings from Lake Washington, which is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful wood with the stains that it stains from the clay, and then the iron bolts that hold the pilings together create this kind of blue and gray and purples. And it would be probably, to cover whole ceiling, it would be a hefty price tag, but it would be absolutely gorgeous. And I know Tacoma just got in a bunch of old shiplap that was used as an attic floor. So there's not we don't have as much square footage, but the back side of it is like rough sawn. And I was trying to think of a place, because I thought that like the rough sawn has such great texture. And I was trying to figure a place that you would want to use that shiplap on the rough side out, because you don't want people to touch it and like get slivers. So a ceiling would actually work really well. But I think we only had 300 square feet. Oh no, maybe it was 300 linear feet. So and they were like 9-inch boards. So anyway, I just listening to that question and conversation, I thought of those two items.
Yeah.
And also, what do you think about bleacher board?
Oh, for old bleachers that were used in schools?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use those for the ceiling. We actually use those for a floor in a kind of a little, I'm not even sure what you'd call the room, but it was like that, this little 3rd floor room of the house that we enclosed the attic just to kind of create a fun little sitting spot upstairs with a lot of windows around it. But that's what we used as the floor, was just the old bleachers. And then filled in all the holes from where the bolts were holding it down.
Yeah. Yeah, we just put out on the floor some nice, they're riser pieces, but they're finger jointed fir. And so they have a really nice look to them. The finger jointing gives you that nice varied look. So even though they're thicker for a ceiling, I was thinking those might look nice as well.
Yeah.
It's called bleacher board.
Yeah. Yep. Look up bleacher board on seconduse.com and you'll see lots of different stuff come up. There's quite a variety of wood within that. Painted wood, varnished wood, riser boards, seat boards, fir, pine. It's a lot of variety within that. So you'll get quite a few options should pop up if you search bleacher board.
Thank you.
But that had another question, Doug. I've had this question several times through email and I'm never quite sure how to answer it. People have asked me about using, and I don't know if you'll answer, so you might, using bowling lane alley pieces, which we have a lot of, as flooring again.
Yes. You could. It's a very thick floor. And there'd be just to do a single room, you're going to use a lot of it. But you can't, the one thing I don't know if you would be able to do is to I don't think you're going to be able to take it to any place and have them cut it in half. Like if it's like 3 inches thick, you're not going to cut it into an 1.5 inch piece and like the whole width of it. So it's just adding a lot of height to a floor. But you could put it on the floor, just get all the pieces together and you just cut them and be very specific in how they go down and attach to your current floor.
Yeah, I found out that every board that's made out of, they're glued and nailed between every board.
Yes.
So there's a lot of nails in there. You're right. They would never cut it in half.
Anytime you take a piece of wood to some sort of mill shop to say, oh, I want this milled differently, it can't have any nails in it because otherwise it destroys their saw blades and equipment. And they tend to not like that.
Yeah. All right, everyone, all you listeners, any more questions?
Can I just start rattling off questions?
Sure, go ahead.
So I missed the beginning. I had audio problems. I'm not quite clear, am I only asking questions sort of in the boundary of what I could purchase at second use to solve my problem, or just general construction things? What's the hope for these meetings? So I honor what you guys are trying to do.
I mean, the hope is to try to like involve salvage places, but you know,
Okay.
I think that you know, we saw a lot of different stuff. You might be surprised what you could find.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
If
gonna
it's
try and
general
stick to
construction
things.
stuff. But like, I mean, you asked a question about like using the free doors that you got off the web, and that's great. We support all of that. Any kind of reuse we're gonna support. So
Okay, so I'm gonna try and figure out how to turn my camera around. On our deck, we have this overhang where the underside, I don't know the right word of what this is, but
That's soffit.
yeah, it's plywood, and so we would love to cover it. But and I hear you guys talking about all these different types of wood that you have for this potential indoor wood ceiling. I don't know what we need to be looking for if it's going to have an outdoor use like this. I mean, it's going to be protected because it's from the underside, but I don't know, anything with the house and water, and it makes me nervous. So what types of things could work there to just make it prettier?
You can use any type of wood because it's usually the underside does not take on rain.
Mhm.
And if it does get a little bit wet, it's so little, it's not going to be an issue. The sun is usually the most damaging thing outside on homes. And what your soffit shouldn't be seeing any sun. And if it is, that means your house kind of fell sideways, and that's an even bigger problem.
Okay.
So you can use any wood. We've used a lot of different woods for soffits, even plywood, but you could use you can get some cedar, which was a really common wood under there. You can use and a classic old one is the bead board for the underside of the soffits. There's that's more of a kind of a craftsman look generally, but there's any type of wood that you want to get, you can put it on and attach it. You might want to remove the plywood and put this other part on, so you don't maybe take the depth down and it sticks lower than the fascia piece that the gutter's attached to.
Okay.
So you don't want to get below that. You want to make sure that that fascia piece is longer and sits down further than the soffit.
That's like sticking down like 2 inches. So I think we'd be good.
Yeah. So any wood you want to get up there, however you want to do it. Like there's a lot of choices to do. You could even get a different type of plywood that is stained to create more of a stained wood look.
Mhm.
And you can then you can install it differently. You can install it with the grain doing various things, maybe kind of create a checkerboard pattern to it, or instead of like the length of the whole thing being the grain going one way, it's the grain is running the short distance
Mhm.
if you want to.
Okay. But if we went to second use and we're like, I like that, we could just like, it doesn't matter what it is as long as we can
Yeah.
attach it to
And
the
as
ceiling.
long as it's wood, and then you seal it when it's done. But you just don't want to put something out there that can really get destroyed by it. So you're not going to use some, an MDF type trim wood or anything like that, because it's outside and it's not going to hold up.
All right, I'm gonna step inside and I'm gonna monopolize your time with one more question. So we took down a drop ceiling and kind of have this like ugly header left over, which we did not cut down. It was like this. I don't know if you can see. Whoever put in the drop ceiling cut it, and there's the holes from the old wiring. So we want to somehow cover it, but I don't know what the options are to just make that look better. If there's some material that's common to do that.
It's all about the look that you want to create. You could wrap it in sheetrock and you just used corner bead around the edges. You could wrap it in any type of wood and then just paint it. So you can get a lot of just one by material and just wrap the whole thing with it to create the look that you want to create. There's a lot of different ways to make how you make it look. But any type of wood, just attach it to the sides of it and then nail that on and paint it. Or if you wanted it to look more stained, you can get a wood that then you can stain. So you can just get if it's just some fur, you nail it to it, and then you can stain the fur. And the fur is pretty inexpensive. Or you can
Thank
take
you.
some of the bleachers that they have and cover it in the bleacher wood.
I want a bowling alley table.
Yes.
That's
They're
what I want.
extremely heavy. We just picked up a piece and took it to a client's, and she's going to use it as her kitchen countertop. So we actually have to cut it, which is going to be a little bit difficult. But she wants this section as part of her kitchen countertops, you know, and so she bought I don't know, they're like, what are they, 4 feet wide, a little over 4 feet wide,
Yeah,
and
probably.
it's like 7 feet long piece. And she only needed like maybe half of it, but she's gonna have a big piece, and it's gonna be a very heavy countertop for that one section, but very durable.
Can you maybe talk about how, like, when people are doing bigger projects with like designers and GCs, like, where in that process does it come up that she wants to use a salvage countertop? Like, did she just mention the idea of salvage and then you guys source ideas for her, or she already knew she wanted that before she started the project? Like, how does that come about typically?
A lot of it's like more homeowner driven as far as wanting to salvage. So they will, if you're going through a big project, you're bringing in the designer. It's good to bring in the designer and the builder somewhat at the same time, so that the designer doesn't go nuts designing something and then the builder gives them a price in the end and be like, whoa, that's too much money, I can't do that. So generally the builder can at least kind of value engineer it. So as the designer throws something together, then the builder can say, for doing that, it's going to be about this much money. And that way, you know, it's in the price range of what you want. But as far as getting salvage, once again, it's just, if you want specific things, you talk to your designer about what you want, and they can, you know, work that into the design to make sure that it gets done. Some designers and some builders don't really like to work with salvage stuff because some of it does actually, it's not really saving you money to buy it, because sometimes it's more labor to install it, to help, because there's so much extra things you have to do to it to make it work. So most of the time it's for the look and the uniqueness that you get out of it. But then also, even the price, though, sometimes it is the price. And our kitchen cabinets we have at our house are salvaged, and that came out of this big mansion in Capitol Hill, and they were gorgeous cabinets. And if I'd have bought these cabinets brand new, I'd have spent 10 times the price of what I spent at the salvage place. But so I got these cabinets, and then I just had to remanipulate my kitchen so that it fit the layout of the cabinets. And that's part of the thing, like salvage cabinets might dictate the design of your kitchen, of how you lay it out, of where you're placing the sink and the fridge and the stove, because you're getting very specific parts, and you don't get to simply say, oh, I need this exact size of cabinet here, and this cabinet here, and this cabinet for this exact layout that I want. You got to be able to shift a little bit and move, like, oh yeah, I'll just move this over here, and I'll move this other thing over there, and see how it all goes together. But most of it is like the homeowner bringing salvage and saying, I want these things designed into what I'm doing.
Doug, we did have a question come in about what is your favorite piece from second use that you used in a remodel?
Wow. My favorite piece I've used in a remodel. I don't know. It's like there's so many. It's more of like how the piece was used, and everybody has used some different things. One really fun one was we had the homeowner. She was getting a new fence, so she bought some unique old salvage doors. We painted them various bright, unique colors, and then we put them as part of the fence pieces going around the fence as the fence. And it was a very unique, fun look in the end. So there's one individual thing, it's hard to stand out because everybody has chosen how to do things uniquely and differently. Like we're working on a project now where she has a light that was meant to be put on the wall as a sconce, and she's had it reconverted. So now it's hanging on the ceiling, and it's a very odd, unique looking light to be on your ceiling, but it is fun and different. And that's where the homeowners get really creative on doing things. And then when you install it, it's like, wow, that one's new and different. Because not everybody can think of everything. And that's what's fun about the salvage stuff, is everybody sees things differently of how to put it together. One thing that I just happened to be going through the store one day, and I saw two things that worked to create what I wanted, which was, for whatever reason, Second Use had a old wooden stain or base, like for an office chair. So it's just like the 5 little pieces of wood that stick out. And that was it. It was just the base. There were no wheels to it. And it was just a center hole in the kitchen. For whatever reason, they had that sitting there. But then they also had a foot rail that was in a bar. So it was just a stainless steel foot rail that had these little bars on it that mounted it to the wall. And so I just shoved the two together, and then it actually became a coat rack. So every once in a while you just see something, and just some fun creative ideas just come up when you see things there. And every homeowner has a different idea of how they're something unique of what they want to do with the parts that happen to be there.
Yeah, I was going to tell a story. We were talking about bowling lane countertops for a little bit. Somebody tagged us in a photo on Instagram. They made their bowling lane countertops, and you know, some bowling lanes have the little colored dots on them from the front of the lane. They actually inserted more of those so that it would be a shuffleboard. so like if they wanted to play shuffleboard on their countertops, they could do that. So I thought that was really cute.
That's fun.
I have some questions about demolition that maybe you can answer. This project that we're building, we currently have on the site where it will be built a really old, 2 old buildings that have been somewhat water damaged, but the rafters are really in good repair. So how difficult is it to save something like that for demolition? And what would be the best use of some great big planks of wood like that?
So you had to remove the old rafters? Is that
Well,
what you did?
we're tearing down the whole building.
Okay.
Really, the only salvageable wood is the rafters.
So actually, we did a project several years ago where the homeowner, when we removed the entire second floor or roof of the house to add a second floor, they had these like 30-foot 2x4s that were pretty much VG fir. They were really, there's like no knots in them, gorgeous pieces of wood. What the homeowners did was took them out and took a metal detector and went all up and down the wood to ensure that they got every ounce of metal out of the wood and pulled all these little pieces out. They took the wood, all these pieces of wood to, oh my gosh, they're right on First. I'm blank. It's not Millwork Supply anymore. I'm blanking that, it'll come to me in a minute. But they took all the pieces of wood into them and had it milled into basically 3/8 thick tongue and groove pieces of wood. And what we did with all that wood then we nailed that to the ceiling in the bedroom and the hall, the new bedroom and hall area, and just nailed and glued that to the ceiling. Because it had a lot of the old nail holes in it, that created a kind of a colored piece to it. And there were a few knots in it. So it created a very unique look to it. So you can have the other old boards milled into something. It's just, you're going to spend a lot of time making sure you remove all the nails. And so you can get a little metal detector and slowly work through it, and then take it in and have it milled into something that you could use.
Does that add quite a bit of cost to the labor to install?
Once it's milled into a wood, it doesn't, at that point, it's a brand new piece of wood. And so we're just installing like a brand new piece of wood. The cost is you going through and removing all the nails. Like if you're going to pay somebody to do that, that's going to get expensive to sit there and spend hours out there trying to remove all these little pieces of metal from it. And then there is a cost of when you take it to the mill shop to have them cut it into what you want. But you do save, obviously the wood is free, and what you get is a unique character of the wood that you're not going to get from any sort of new wood. And a lot of the old wood that's in homes does not have any knots in it, and there's in really good shape. So you can mill it into something, and it's still really, it's a quality wood because it's not, it's not a big knotty piece of wood that if you cut it down, it's just going to fall apart.
Now these are 24-foot long 2x12s.
Yes.
So how thick would you say they should be milled down to
It
do it
depends upon what you're making.
for a ceiling treatment?
It's nice to have it like, I mean, because if it's a 2x, they can mill it down and get 3 boards out of 1 thickness when they mill it. So that gives you about a 3/8 thick piece of wood, and that's fine to do on your ceiling. You can, if you wanted to keep them as 2x12s and have them that thickness, you could, or you can just have them cut directly in half, so that maybe you want to say keep the old roughness that's on one side out, and then the smooth side is what you'll be attaching to the ceiling. You can have it milled like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of to back up what Doug was saying with like the salvaging of that kind of wood is like, it still kind of pains me that it is so expensive to try to get that beautiful old wood out of a house and usable. When, you know, we have a salvage crew at Second Use and we go out and we salvage stuff, we're doing skims, which means we take out the surface materials that are easy to remove, because as Doug said, it's too expensive to remove nails out of wood and then make your money back on the piece of wood that you want to sell. So even though it's really nice old wood, it is difficult. So if you can do that yourself, that does it, you know, that's, you know, power to you to get that done, because it's too expensive for us to do.
Yeah.
So
And apparently it is also expensive in the demolition process. More expensive to try to save it than it is just to trash it.
Yeah, it takes more time to slowly take something apart than it does to just smash it apart.
Yeah.
Because most people just want to come in there, take a saw, cut things off, smash it up, and just instantly throw it in the dumpster. But you do, anymore in the city of Seattle, they have part of the things that you have to prove is on your demo for your projects is how much recycling and things you're doing to prevent stuff from going into landfill that you're doing, so that you'll have a waste report that you're supposed to get and that you're supposed to file when your project is done, when your permit's done. And so if you do things like that, that really gets you really far as putting you high on the list for the waste report. And that makes the city happier then.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions?
I don't see any in the chat. Well, Dinah, I think that I hope that you are able to save that wood. It sounds amazing. And that could be it. I think that would be a great ceiling treatment idea.
Yeah, I hope we are too.
One thing that's nice about like the rafters, Doug, wouldn't you be able to just like kind of cut out on the, you know, you wouldn't have to remove them from all of where they're connected. You could just cut you just lose some length of it.
Yeah. I mean, you could cut the few inches. Usually the ends have the most nails in it. You can cut those off if you didn't, to speed up the saving process and getting rid of the nails. It's a lot of times older, the rafters, that's usually lath and plaster was nailed to it. And so usually the lath has a million little nails. And so it's just trying to get all those little nails out. And that's just, it can take a little bit of time to take those small nails out. But once again, just make sure if you get a metal detector, have those little metal wands, and you can just slowly run it down it just to make sure that you get all the nails out, and then you just run it in, and you can have the shop mill it into a lot of different things. It's just choosing what you want it milled into.
What is it? Is it like an air tool, air compressor tool, that like nail removal gun or something?
No, it's usually it's a good pair of like kind of like almost metal snips that just kind of clamp together, and hammers and nail sets, and trying to either knock it through or pull it out or dig it out. Sometimes you cut a little bit into the wood to get it out, but then again, that adds to then when you have it milled into something else, part of the character of the wood that you get is this old wood that has staining from the nails in it, and unique little divots and things in it. And that's part of the fun of the older salvage look to create it. If you want brand new, fresh, sparkly wood, then you're going to go out and buy that kind of wood. But if you want something with some character, you can use any of the salvage stuff and take it in and just have it milled.
Has the name of the place come to you yet?
No, for whatever reason, it's not. But they're on First Avenue, about 2 blocks north of the Starbucks building, on the same side of the street as Starbucks.
Thank you.
I can't think of that. That's Outdoor Research is all I can think of, but that's not.
Yeah, I mean, they're almost next door to Outdoor Research.
Okay.
And with whatever reason, the name of the company is not coming through. I know Millwork Supply used to be there, but this is something. Oh, O.B. Williams. That's
O.B. Williams, it came to you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we refer a lot of people to O.B. Williams as well. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining. I want to talk a little bit. I listened in. Doug was giving a presentation from the Northwest Green Home Tour. So I got to see one of the projects that he worked on, which was really fun to see. I think that Doug and his team do really great work. So I'd highly recommend Doug and Mighty House Construction, and you can find out more about them at mightyhouseconstruction.com. Hopefully everybody here knows about seconduse.com and the fact that we put most of our materials up online for you to view. We do have a hold system, so if you see something that you like, you can give us a call or send us an email and put the item on hold until 5 o'clock the next day, so that you're assured that the item is going to be there when you show up at the store, and to find out if it works or not for you and what you want to use it for. And what else? I think that's kind of covers everything a little bit. Thank you all for joining us. I hope that you'll learn something new for the day, and I think that's
It's
it.
very interesting. Thank you.
All right. Thank
very
you.
much. Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Have a good night, everybody.